Democratic Republic's Congo Felix Tshisekedi takes over as African Union chairperson. Thousands of Indian farmers block highways as their months-long protests against new agricultural laws continue. And 1,000 people take to the streets in Myanmar to march against military coup. Hello and welcome to TeleSUR. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is From the South. The Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has taken over as African Union chairman. The outgoing chairman, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, handed over to President Tshisekedi during the virtual 34th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly. President Tshisekedi said the new AU Commission, which is going to be elected during the ongoing assembly meeting, will prioritize completing institutional reforms of the organization and attend to expectations of member states, as well as implement the Continental's body flagship projects.
Congratulations, President Tshisekedi, and I now hand over the flag as well as the gavel to you as our new chairperson of the AU.
Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is said to become the first African and first woman to lead the embattled World Trade Organization after a South Korean rival withdrew on Friday and the United States reversed its previous opposition. The government of President Joe Biden expressed its strong support for Okonjo-Iweala in a statement late Friday, lauding her experience at the World Bank and leading Nigeria's finance ministry and pledging to work with her. The move cleared the way for the WTO members to conclude a census-based process and confirm Iweala as the next general director. The administration of former President Donald Trump had blocked Iweala's candidacy despite a selection panel strongly recommended her for the position. Tens of thousands of people have set up makeshift camps in the Cabo Delgado area of Mozambique after fleeing from extremist violence in the northern region of the country. Since the violence began in 2017, more than 2,500 people have been killed and over 500,000 have been displaced. The displacement camps are now dealing with another problem, an outbreak of cholera due to the unsanitary conditions. Health officials say there are also problems with malnutrition and malaria. Cabo Delgado has the highest rate of chronic malnutrition in the country, with over half of its children malnourished.
We don't know how we are going to get out of this situation. We have not had any help. We are not living well. As you can see, sometimes we eat, sometimes we don't. We are really suffering.
When they come, they cover their heads. You can only see their eyes. I didn't recognize them. First of all, it was Salima. She was picking mangoes when they kidnapped her. The second was Aiwa. She went to get water and they took her away.
Dozens of people in Lebanon have gathered in Beirut to protest the killing of prominent publisher and critic of the militant Hezbollah group, Lokman Slim. Slim was found in his car in southern Lebanon on Thursday with multiple gunshot wounds. The longtime Shiite political activist and researcher went missing on Wednesday night after a trip south to visit friends. Perpetrators of political violence or corruption are almost never identified or persecuted in Lebanon. With rising tension in the middle of political disputes and economic crisis, officials have warned that a return of violence and assassinations.
This is a political assassination of one of the most prominent public opinion figures in Lebanon, Lokman Slim. I will speak about the period afterward, and if there is an investigation, this investigation should, on the basis of evidence, say who killed Lokman Slim. Otherwise, it is known where Lokman Slim was killed, and it is known who threatened him. It is known whom he blamed: Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and Parliament Speaker Navi Berri.
The Libyan Joint Military Committee has announced that the start date for the country's demining process set to begin in the 10th of February. The move is meant to prepare the state for the reopening of the coastal road between Croatia and Tripoli. The road has been closed since April 2019. The committee also welcomed the newly elected presidential council as the oil-rich African nation makes strides to implement the ceasefire agreement reached in October last year.
The committee affirms the implementation of the terms and provisions of the ceasefire signed on October 23, 2020, and insists on moving forward in the process of removing mercenaries and foreign fighters immediately. And the committee reiterates its demands to the Security Council and the follow-up countries on the outcomes of the Berlin Conference. The committee announces the actual start of the process of cleaning mines and remnants of war, starting on February 10, 2021, in preparation for the opening of the coastal road.
Hundreds of Tunisians have gone back into the streets of the capital Tunis to demonstrate against the economic crisis in the country. The demonstrators also demanded the release of those arrested during anti-government protests staged early this year. The protest follows demonstrations that were held outside the country's parliament last month over poverty and a lack of jobs. Last month, the country's Prime Minister, Hichem Michichi, announced a government reshuffle aimed at putting in place reforms for the creation of jobs and improving living conditions in the North African country. We'll take a short break now. More news in a minute.
Dentro do que é o nosso governo hoje, periférico, pobre, favelado, preto, ele não existe. Não existe diálogo. Eles são fascistas, sim.
Sempre que há uma aplicação brutal e radical de um programa neoliberal, é necessária repressão, porque o neoliberalismo retira direitos sociais e o neoliberalismo precariza as condições de vida da classe trabalhadora.
Dismantling Brazil, Bolsonaro is a neoliberal. Today, only on TeleSUR.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on TeleSUR.
Welcome back. In Uruguay, the National Trade Union Center recently celebrated the anniversary of the birth of Cuban national hero José Martí and marked the achievement of 100,000 eye operations as part of the Miracle Eye Surgery program. Our correspondent Mateo Grille has the details.
The event represented well-deserved recognition of Cuba by Uruguayan workers. The National Trade Union Center and the Bank Workers Union celebrated the anniversary of the birth of Cuban national hero José Martí, as well as 100,000 surgeries performed in Uruguay within the framework of Operation Miracle, an initiative created by Commander Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez, offering free eye surgeries for people with limited resources.
We do not want to miss the opportunity to mark Martí's birthday on January 28th, and at the same time connect it with what it meant for the history of Cuba and Cuban independence, and link it to the current struggles and current gratitude.
In 2005, Uruguay formally joined Operation Miracle, and in 2007, the José Martí Eye Hospital was inaugurated. Several brigades of Cuban doctors have treated thousands of Uruguayans at the facility. In November 2020, the number of free operations performed reached 100,000.
We are infinitely grateful for the presence of the Cuban doctors here at the Jose Marti Hospital, generating a situation where it is demonstrated that they can organize to ensure that health is not a commodity, is not a source of profit for a few, but that they are above concepts such as profitability and other issues.
The Cuban workers also expressed their gratitude for the tributes. The coordinator of the Operation Miracle Brigade in Uruguay, Jose Hernandez, highlighted the benefit of working with Uruguayans.
In these 30 years, we have performed 100,000 surgeries. We have performed them as part of our duty as health professionals, and we have felt really proud, happy to be working during this stage of our life, to be exchanging with health professionals in Uruguay.
The event, organized by Uruguayan workers, not only served to commemorate the anniversary of the birth of Jose Marti and to celebrate the 100,000 surgeries offered under Operation Miracle, it was also announced that Uruguayan workers are joining the global campaign calling for Cuba's Henry Reeve International Medical Contingent to be awarded the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize.
Mateo Grille, TeleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
The government of the Brazilian state of Minas Gerais has reached an agreement with the private mining company Vale regarding compensation for the social and environmental damage caused by the dam collapse and toxic spill in the municipality of Brumadinho in January 2019. The mining giant committed to paying $7 billion in compensation. The amount represents $4 billion less than what was initially demanded by the government from the company, which will not be responsible for removing the toxic waste from the area. The negotiations left out the families affected by the incident, who stressed the deal does not represent the reparations they are hoping for. More than 200 people died during the incident. Continuing in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro has suspended its world-famous carnival due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The mayor, Eduardo Paes, said that the state does not have the right sanitary conditions to hold the event this year. Previously, Carnival Samba schools expressed their support for the postponement of the most famous street festival in the world due to unsafe conditions. State authorities warned that if the decree banning carnival activities is not complied with, they will confiscate equipment and musical instruments. Although Brazil has started its vaccination campaign, the country faces one of the highest rates of infection and deaths due to the coronavirus in the world. Over to Cuba, health authorities have said that the country's pharmaceutical industry has the technological capacity to produce millions of monthly doses of its upcoming COVID-19 vaccines. The country is currently developing 4 vaccine candidates, 2 of which will move on the phase 3 clinical trials in March. Eduardo Ojito, the director of the Center for Molecular Immunology, stated that they can produce 100,000 daily doses, which translates to 12,000 per hour in each laboratory. Ojito added that once health authorities approve phase 3, production and distribution will begin.
Of these 4 candidates that are now in human trials, of the 4 candidates there are 3 fundamental elements, based on which, after the results in the preclinical studies in animals, we have decided to go undertake in parallel and use in human in clinical trials. But before referring to these 3 elements, I would like to explain what these 4 candidates have in common. These 4 candidates use the same type of antigen.
Cuba has implemented a nightly curfew in Havana between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. in an attempt to tackle a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. There will be a total restriction of movement for people and vehicles during curfew hours, with a special permission required to enter and leave the city for other provinces. Authorities also remind that fines up to $80 remain in place for gatherings not wearing face masks and for parents who allow their children to stay out in public.
Beginning today, new and more restrictive measures
are in place because there are new infections, and this must be avoided for ourselves, for the children, for the Cuban Republic, and for whole humanity.
Now they have to take these measures to avoid infection because Boca de Jaruco is full of COVID-19 cases. Santa Cruz equally. The measures taken are very good, but the government should also take into account the problems we have.
Firefighters in Argentina continue to battle a fire that broke out more than a week ago in a wooded area of the Rio Negro province. The blaze has destroyed more than 10,000 hectares near the tourist town of El Bolsón, located about 1,000 kilometers south of Buenos Aires, near Patagonia and close to the border with Chile. The fire is being fought by more than 150 brigade members of the local firefighter service and volunteers, and its cause has not yet been established. The rocky affected area has some valleys, making it difficult to extinguish the fire. Thousands of Indian farmers have blockaded highways across the country for several hours to protest new agricultural laws. Protesters carried banners and flags and chanted slogans denouncing the laws, which they say will leave them poorer and at the mercy of corporations. Authorities deployed thousands of security forces, mainly outside India's capital, where farmers have camped for more than 2 months. The farmers have said they won't leave until the government rolls back the laws. Several rounds of talks between farmers with the government have failed to produce any breakthroughs over the last 2 months.
We want to show the country that the farmers' brotherhood is still strong. We farmers all are together. I mean all of the countries together. Our flag is flying high. There are no mischievous elements amongst us. We will sit here for 2 or 3 hours peacefully, and our purpose is the repeal of the 3 agriculture laws.
Around 1,000 people have taken to the streets of Myanmar's commercial capital in a show of resistance against the country's military coup earlier this week. The crowd of workers, students, and activists marched through Yangon in support of the UST leader Aung San Suu Kyi, before being blocked by hundreds of riot police. The march came one day after authorities set a ban on social media, shutting access to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and other related apps. The military seized power shortly after a new session of parliament was to convene on Monday and detained Suu Kyi and other top politicians. The military accused Suu Kyi and her party of failing to act on its complaints that the election was fraudulent. However, the Election Commission said it has not found evidence to support the claims. The European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Josep Borrell, met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Friday. This was the first visit to Russia by an EU High Representative since 2017. Among the issues discussed by the two diplomats were the importance of continued implementation of the Iran nuclear deal, climate change, and the global response to the coronavirus pandemic. Referring to COVID-19 and the need for vaccines, the top diplomats hailed the success of Russia's Sputnik V vaccine and said he hoped it could be certified for use in the bloc. And speaking after the meeting in Moscow, Borrell said the EU continues to reject the United States blockade against Cuba and expressed hope that the U.S. President Joe Biden will soon overturn Donald Trump's decision to designate a Cuba state sponsor of terrorism.
We regretted very much the designation by Trump to include Cuba as a country supporting terrorism. They take this decision on the last hours in office. And we consider, and I want to use this opportunity to insist that we strongly regret this kind of decisions, and we expect that the new administration will bring things back to the situation previous to this decision taken on the last minute by the Trump administration, which is going to create a lot of difficulties to the Cuban people and to the trade and economic relationship between the European Union and Cuba.
China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin has said that the Asian nation welcomes the 5-year extension of the nuclear arms control treaty between U.S. and Russia.
China welcomes the 5-year extension of the New START by the United States and Russia. It will help maintain global strategic stability, promote global peace and security, and meet the shared expectations of the international community. At the same time, the United States and Russia hold the largest nuclear arsenals, with their combined nuclear weaponry accounting for over 90% of the world's total. The two should follow international consensus, uphold their special and primary responsibilities to nuclear disarmament, and further substantially slash their nuclear stockpile in a verifiable, irreversible, and legally binding way to create conditions for ultimately comprehensive and complete nuclear disarmament.
Palestinian authorities have welcomed the decision by the International Criminal Court to recognize the country as a state party to the institution. Prime Minister Mohamed Siyatet said the move creates possibility of investigating Israel for alleged war crimes in the occupied territories. According to the Palestinian leader, it is a message to the perpetrators of crimes that their actions will not go unpunished. He added that it was a triumph for the court itself, which stopped Israel's attempt to politicize its deliberations. The court decided by a majority that the territorial jurisdiction in the situation in Palestine extends to the territories occupied by Israel since 1967, namely Gaza and West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected the ruling, calling the court a political body. In the United States, a mass vaccination site has been opened at the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx in an effort to reach minorities in the neighborhood that has hardened by the pandemic in New York City.
I think it's important to have a center here. They should have at least 3 other ones like this in the Bronx. I arrived here around 9 a.m. and I am just getting out.
I feel good, thankfully, and I'm grateful to God, because we have to believe in something, and this is science, and I know this is going to make a difference. 2 or 3 people are told me they wouldn't get vaccinated, but I try to tell them we have to trust in something, and some changes their mind. Many didn't change their mind, but for me, I believe that this is a matter of choosing between life and death.
The head of the World Health Organization has called on vaccine manufacturers to share technologies in order to help boost production, warning that unless there is more access to the jabs, the progress made against the pandemic will be lost.
Globally, the number of vaccinations has now overtaken the number of reported infections. In one sense, that's good news and a remarkable achievement in such a short time frame. But more than 3/4 of those vaccinations are in just 10 countries that account for almost 60% of global GDP. We need countries to share doses once they have finished vaccinating health workers and older people. But we also need a massive scale-up in production. Unless we suppress the virus everywhere, we could end up back at square one.
We come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.